ways in which we can ensure that we are not putting burden of guilt on our children. So first thing I said earlier before I left was you have to recognize their efforts. It is very important for you to recognize your children or your child's effort. You have to praise their effort. It doesn't matter how big or small it might look to you. As long as there is progress, you have to recognize their efforts, the effort of your child, and praise their effort, praise their progress. Even if the outcome doesn't look perfect, even if the outcome is not what you are expecting, ensure there is praise. If you are expecting your child to run, for example, and you see the child who is just sitting and not crawling, taking a step to crawl, please praise that effort. And that is how we should deal with all our children. Am I audible now? Am I audible now? Am I audible now? Please let me see. Let me confirm I am audible. Am I audible? All right. Good to go. All right. I'm talking about ways that you can use to avoid putting burdens of guilt on your children. I just wanted to be sure I'm audible because I was live before and I wasn't audible. All right. So you have to focus on growth. It is very important for parents to be aware that it is most important for you to focus on your child's growth rather than their mistakes. These things are easier said than done because we oftentimes focus on the child's mistakes and we are not in the process seeing if there's any growth in the process of their mistakes. So it is very important for you to call yourself to others, parent and caregiver, that you have to see their growth. You have to see their process rather than your child's mistake. Most especially that now the school year is starting for not preparing the child. You are just putting the burden of guilt on that child. You're actually creating the atmosphere for that child to be fearful, to be scared of success. And the child will be like, oh, I'm not even sure I can do it because even my parents are not sure I can do it. Meanwhile, that is not your intention. That is not your intention. So be careful. Be careful that you focus on the growth. Be careful of the way you communicate these things to your children. Don't be overzealous. Don't be busy and be guilty with our words, with our actions, because you want the child to be prepared. Your words can mar the child. Your words also can build the child. The school is resuming. You have to do better. The last time you didn't do well. Ensure that you're not putting burden on your child. The burden of previous academic year. Because it wasn't perfect. Be sure these things are out. Rule them out. Rule them out. Failures are part of life. I'm not saying you should allow your child to fail. But even as a parent to know that through our failures we grow. Just look at your life as a parent and adult. Even this year, check, you have failed on something. You didn't do that thing well. You actually planned something but didn't go out right. But you learned through the process of not doing the same mistake again. If we see our children the same way, if we raise them the same way, they're actually going to come out better. They're going to come out bigger. So ensure you're not putting the burden of guilt on your child. Refrain from blaming your child on issues, problems, and mistakes. You know, this can make them feel a lot of guilty. They can feel guilty. They will be responsible. They will feel responsible for the things that is actually beyond their control. When you always put this burden on them, they will always feel responsible for the things that is actually beyond their control. What are few things? Let me quickly give you an example of few things that are actually beyond their control. A child who is a slow learner. Maybe dyscalculia is there, dyslexia is there, But you as a parent, you don't even know what your child is going through. These things are beyond their control. If you bring 10 lesson teachers, but the root cause is not known, the same result will keep coming. And you keep shouting and ranting on that child. So ensure that you are not actually, it's bad to burden your child, but it's worse for you to burden your child on things beyond their control. Didn't you see Paul? Didn't you see your friend? But your child, or that child rather, might be going through a challenge that is not physical, that you might not actually see until a tracking is done, until an evaluation is done. I just hope somebody is getting the point. I don't have time to break these things down, but I'm sure somebody out there is getting the point. Don't put burden on them, don't let them feel responsible or for the things beyond their control. Some of the things that might be beyond their control is having an unskilled teacher in the classroom who doesn't actually take time to understand the uniqueness of each child. I understand you're going to say, how can a teacher understand the uniqueness of each child? Maybe they are 15 in the classroom, they are 20 in the classroom. I understand it's going to take time. However, it is still the duty of a skilled teacher, not just certified teacher. I'm talking about skilled teacher to understand the uniqueness of the child. I'm not saying every school is doing the individualized program, but however, as a teacher who is heading a classroom, you should understand that this child is not going to understand this way. So if your child, or that child rather, is in a class that the teacher doesn't care or not skilled or doesn't even know what to do, that is an example of what is beyond the child's control. And you, if you're not careful, you just keep shouting on the child, putting the blame, the burden of blame and guilt on your child. So please ensure that we have the emotional dysregulation is there. Children are going through these things. Anxiety disorder is there. Stress. You don't know why your child didn't do well in that particular thing. Did you take your time to find out the reason why? And you just believe. I believe a lot of parents, believe when it comes to academics and my child does not do well the previous year or the previous term, the next thing to do for me is to get 6 extra teachers. Hello? You might end up getting 10 extra teachers, yet there is no result. Because if there is an underlying problem, until you find out and look for the solution, you might never get the result. So ensure you are not busy, yet guilty. So you have to create a safe space for your children. Create a safe space for them to have an open communication with you. Sometimes some of these children actually, they really, really want to express how they feel. Like, sometimes I'm in the class and I just go blank. I don't even understand what the teacher is saying. I'm looking at the number sometimes and it's turning upside down. They actually want to explain to you. But because you have no idea that this thing actually do happen, just say, shut up, keep quiet because you are lazy. No, it's not always because the child is lazy. The child might be telling you what he or she is passing through. So take your time to listen. Because you always believe that child, if the child doesn't want to do anything, maybe it's our child, just come up with, I'm sick or I'm having a headache. And because you believe that the child doesn't want to do the homework or doesn't want to go to school today, that's why I say, when I look at the board, it's like the number is mixed up. Dyscalculia is real. Dyslexia is real. And you have to be smart enough, be intelligent enough, welcome and open communication for you to be able to find out the underlying issue without putting the burden of guilt on your children. And it's very important for me to emphasize on these things at this particular time that the new school year is just resuming. I don't have a lot of time. Maybe I think I should just hold on this because I have to go now and continue this next week because I think there is need for us to buttress on this. When we talk about healthy boundaries also, quite a lot of caregivers and parents do not understand what healthy boundaries are. One of the ways that you're not going to put the burden of guilt on your child is to ensure that it's healthy boundary. Be clear about expectations. Don't just say do that and they don't even know what to do. They don't know what is expected of them. Always ensure that your expectations are clear enough. And that is you without making them feel guilty. Don't make them feel guilty of having their space. You know, they need their space. Sometimes they just want to be alone. Sometimes they want to read. Sometimes maybe they just take screen time for them. But you always, always make that moment a moment of guilt for them. Now you can watch TV, right? We are doing math the other time. You are just saying jargons. Now it's moving. You have strength. You are destroying the child by saying these things. If it is screen time, please let the child enjoy the screen time without you giving burden to the child because you just did calculations previously and the child didn't do well. And you think you can rub it in so that the child can remember. No, you are not building, you are destroying. Be careful as parents. You need to be careful. Let them enjoy their space without guilt. Let them enjoy their independence without guilt. You know, the time that is given to them, let them enjoy it without, look at you now. This word can mar them. Be careful. You have to be able to teach them responsibility, not guilt. Don't forget, I'm talking about not putting the burden of guilt on your child. When you're teaching your child responsibility, don't push in guilt. Encourage your child to take responsibility. Do it because it's good for them. It's all about them. But a lot of people are actually used to teaching with guilt, rubbing in guilt every time. Encourage them to take responsibility for their actions without making them to feel, you know, as though mistake is, we define who they are. Some of us as parents, we rub it in for them that we make their mistake look like that is who they are. The child made a mistake does not mean that that is who the child is. Let the child learn from their mistake. Let them make mistake and learn from it. Don't paint it to them that you are just imperfect and that is who you are. Don't use guilt as motivation. Avoid using guilt as motivation. It is very, very dangerous. If your child always feel guilty, the end is destruction. You know, if you want to come about motivation for your child, this should be a positive reinforcement. Move to the side of positive reinforcement and encouragement. Encourage the child. You know this child is already struggling. Maybe skill, as choice, academics. Motivate the child. Encourage the child, not guilt. You didn't do that well. You always do this. This is who you are. Not. And learn also to respect the child's feeling. It is very important for you to learn to respect your child's feeling. Even if you feel that is not what the child should feel at that time. I don't feel good about this. Maybe you're going on, I don't want to go to this place. Maybe you want the child to go and play with somebody. I don't want to go and play. Now you don't want to go and play because you always go back to their fault. You always go back to their mistake. You don't want to think about how that child feels per time. Respect your child's feeling. It is very important. Help them by you validating their emotions. Don't just disregard their emotions. Don't just dismiss or display their emotion. It is very important. Because this is always going to give them self-doubt. If I say it, mommy will not believe me. If I tell mommy I'm having a headache, mommy will think because of the homework. So a lot of them are, they fall victim of a very bad situation, maybe sickness. Because if they tell you, I'm having a headache on this side, maybe the child is having migraine, what comes to your mind first is because the child does not want to do something. That is what comes to your mind first. You don't even trust that child. Can we shake better this time? Can we just let go of these things and respect their emotion and trust our children and understand the uniqueness of the child we are raising, not the one we think we are going to raise before you see the child. Embrace the child you are raising, not the one you thought during the photo shoot, pregnancy photo shoot. Embrace your child, not the imaginary one, but the one you have in your hand. Understand that one. How can you raise this one appropriately without putting the burden of guilt on this child? And that is your work to do. And I just want to implore you this moment that you should get to work. It's a new academic year. Help that child. The child can actually do better. But if I say something, you might take it personal. Because everything is not about A+. Have you explored the skill of that child? disregarding or talking down on academics, but can you just balance your strength? Can you balance the strength of, you didn't get A, you only had two A's. A's are good, A plus are good. But A plus is not going to make edge for that child. Don't mistake me. Balance things up for your child. Understand that child. Love the child enough genuinely. Only then and then you will not put the burden of guilt on that child. Be supportive, be a supportive parent, all of the positive you approach when you're dealing with your children. This is going to help your child to grow. They need to grow emotionally, they need to grow academically, socially. But you need to grow first. The growth starts from you. If you don't know what to do, and all you do is to pull the burden of guilt every time, you're going to destroy the child. So please go up there as a parent and caregiver and help your child to grow in all facets of life by you not putting the burden of guilt on your child. All right, I thank you all so much for joining me today. And I said it earlier, if you see my face for the very first time, my name is Oye Layo. But you can just call me Oye for short. And this is called the Parenting Essential. It is the home of key strategies to parenting. It's coming to you from the Vision Guide every Saturday evening. And I'm happy you are here. You're joining me today from every platform. I'm going to say thank you, everybody, for joining me. I can't see anyone at the moment because I'm running out of time. I have other engagements. I know you're there. I just want to say thank you for joining me. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll be coming back your way next week